I'm sure most of us have had someone in our life whose goal is to make it a living hell. For me, CTHS was the gateway to hell. I had no idea what the school year would be like, but I soon found out how fast good goes to bad. I eventually ended up dating a girl named Jessica on Valentine's Day, but after 2 weeks, she suddenly breaks it off with me and says nothing about it. As time passes, I decide I'm not going to speak to her because of what she did. It wasn't until April 1st that communication between us started again. I had two of my friends over at my house that day, Carissa and Brian, and as usual, we're just hanging out and chilling in my room until we got hungry, so I decided that I would go downstairs and make food. However, I left my phone upstairs, and when I came back, I saw them laughing and typing on my phone. And eventually, I got my phone back and realized that they were messaging Jessica on my phone upstairs with my phone. They decided to make a group conversation with fake Kik accounts and roast her harshly for 30 minutes. Eventually, they got bored of the joke and they go home. I didn't think too much about it, and I just decided to spend the rest of the day playing games until I fell asleep. The next day, I go to school and everything seems to be going great. It wasn't until fourth period during study time that there was a knock on the door. I thought nothing of it and continued doing my geometry homework. After a couple seconds, the teacher comes back to me and hands me a slip saying, AP office now. And my mind is going crazy and I'm like, why am I being called down? I don't do anything. So I go down to the office and I see Brian sitting there. The assistant principal, Mr. Phillips, orders me to sit down. He explains that a very concerned mother has accused us of threatening and harassing her daughter. I tried to explain I had nothing to do with it, but her mother had sent him screenshots of the conversation, which have my picture on it since they used my account. Mr. Phillips proceeds to give those speeches that we could be kicked out the school and that she can press charges if she would like to. And if the harassing continues, no matter who does it, it's going to come back to me. After his speech, he brings in an officer and explains the seriousness of the situation. I'm going to be honest though, throughout this whole time I kept laughing in my head because I thought this was bullcrap. The officer kept repeating the same lines over and over, basically saying, you don't want to be kicked out or press charges, so just apologize and everything will be fine. After that, Mr. Phillips decides to call our guardians, so he calls my mom and she is pissed off. She orders Mr. Phillips to take my phone and that she would be interrogating me after school. Eventually, after all the phone calls were done, we are released from the office and we go on with the day. I finally get home and my mom interrogates the crap out of me. And I explain to her that I didn't do it. Chris and Brian did it off my phone. She believes me and considers it bullcrap as well. And tells me just stay away from them. They're not your friends. I follow her advice and prepare for work because I work at 4 p.m. every day after school. And then I come back at 10:30, fall asleep, and go to school the next day. So when I do go to school the next day, I will go up to my geometry teacher, Mr. Reek, and ask him to separate me from Jessica to avoid any further conflicts. About 2 months passes and my life is back together. Nothing ended up happening after the incident with the charges. It wasn't until the end of May I started hearing rumors that Jessica likes me, and I'm like, are you serious? Is this a freaking joke? I heard it from a girl in my speech class who has her for another class, and it just so happens the same day that I got a text message that says, hey, this is Jessica. And I didn't believe it at all, so I asked her a question only she would know. I asked her, what's my birthday and what's my middle name? She proceeds to answer, LOL, okay. You were born December 31st and your middle name is Alexander. She was right, and I only knew that this was her because I have never told anyone at the school my birthday or my middle name. It turns out her mom had seen the messages on her phone and freaked out and called us into the office. After a couple months go by, we patch things up and we eventually start dating. The relationship is going great. I meet her mom and I explain to her mom I would never do anything to her daughter like that. Her mom, after a few weeks of us dating, started to call me her son-in-law and that this house would basically be my second family. I was there practically every day after school having dinner with them until I had to go home. About 3 months after dating, her phone had technical issues, and me, being a person who is way into technology, decided to offer to fix it. While I had her phone, I noticed she had messages from her ex At first, I thought this was way before us, but I soon realized the date on the messages was during the first 2 weeks we started dating. So I asked simple things to her like, "You wouldn't lie to me, right?" And "You wouldn't do this to me, right?" Leading up until she admitted that what I saw was true. I know it wasn't to get back at me for the roasting, but I think she did it because she couldn't forget her ex. My heart shattered, and it was a painful week. I never slept that whole week and fell asleep in one of my classrooms before school had started. My teacher knew that something had happened and told me to talk to him after school. Once school ended, I went straight to his classroom and explained to him what happened. We decided that I should join AP classes so I wouldn't get paired up in a class with her for the next year. And I stopped focusing on what happened between us and started focusing on my academics. I started taking harder courses and studying harder so I could avoid what happened the year before. Eventually, as school years went on, I became a tutor for AP stats, and eventually, what was once a dream that had turned into a nightmare had finally faded away.